Here we are. Here we are. Got a full chat in here tonight. How you guys doing? Good to be home, back from Tampa. Robbie Falk here from 247 Sports, Starville Daily News, Thunder and Lightning Podcast, among other things. Been in Tampa for the last few days. Just got settled back here after a strange travel day, but we got a lot to talk about, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way early. Not anything official on Kendall Briles and Mississippi State or anything like that, but we're going to dive into that and kind of where Mississippi State stands right now based on what I'm hearing. And we'll talk about that offensive coordinator situation. I know a lot of you guys are really interested in that, especially, but a lot of things happening with Mississippi State, Zach Arnett, and his first staff. And there's going to be a lot more happening in the next few days too. So we will dive into all that. A reminder that you can put in any kind of comments within reason. Try to be civil and things like that over there on the right side of the screen. You got any questions, comments, feel free to drop them in. We'll talk about it on here as well. So let's start with Kendall Briles. We'll start where Mississippi State stands right now with Kendall Briles in the offensive coordinator position, because I know that's where most of y'all's head is right now. Mississippi State and Kendall Briles is a thing. This is not something made up. This is not something that I was skeptical a little bit about the whole situation based on the fact that the elephant in the room is Kendall Briles' agent. And I think everybody in the country knows, or everybody that keeps up with football knows, that Jimmy Sexton is the best of the best when it comes to college football coaches and any kind of coaches in general, getting them money. And that's been kind of the topic of concern. Does this have anything to do with the fact that he might be getting a raise? I've done some extensive checking on that because that's been something that's kind of been at the forefront for me and my skepticism based on the fact that Jimmy Sexton is Kendall Briles' agent. And what I've been told is that this is a legitimate thing. Mississippi State and Kendall Briles, he's very interested in the job. Mississippi State obviously is very interested in him being in the offensive coordinator. And the ultimate draw is the fact that he is going to be able to run the offense the way he wants to run it. I talked to some Arkansas people. They dispute a little bit of the thought process that he has not had autonomy over that offense. And I've also talked to some people that say that Coach Sam Pittman has a lot to do with some of the decisions that are made. I don't know, fully well, what that situation is, but apparently there is a little bit of, what Mississippi State's being able to sell has been able to get through to Kendall Briles, the opportunity to run the offense his way. I think the offense would look slightly different than what it's been at Arkansas if he's running it with full autonomy. The thought that, Chad Bumpus being hired had anything to do with Kendall Briles or an offensive coordinator already being hired is false. That was something that was already going to happen no matter who the coordinator is. But I'm told that Kendall Briles did know about that previously, and that's not something that's going to be a hang-up for him at Mississippi State if he was to choose to come to Starkville. So where are things right now? As we talk right now, from what I know, everything is in Kendall Briles' court. He has a decision to make. Mississippi State has a package available for him, a nice payday for him. I don't know if Arkansas is willing to pay him what Mississippi State's willing to pay him. They are capable of paying him that. I don't think Mississippi State is a team that is going to outbid Arkansas if they really want Kendall Briles. I think that Arkansas's checkbook carries a lot more cash than Mississippi State does based on what they have out there. But it's going to boil down to whether or not Kendall Briles wants to make that move. I've heard that he's happy at Arkansas, and then some people have said that he's not. So it's really about who you believe, who you talk to. The people I talk to believe that Mississippi State has made a lot of headway with Kendall Briles over the last couple of days. These people are optimistic that Mississippi State's chances of landing Kendall Briles, and it's obviously something that we're all just kind of sitting around waiting on, and we'll see exactly what happens over the next couple of days. I think that we're going to have a resolution on this pretty soon. I think that you'll see some kind of announcement one way or the other, whether or not Kendall Briles is going to stay at Arkansas with maybe an extension, or maybe we get some news out there that Mississippi State and Kendall Briles are moving in different directions. But right now, the focus for Mississippi State is on Kendall Briles to be the next offensive coordinator, and we will see what direction that goes. As of 5:05 p.m., I do not have any news that gives me an indication that there's been a decision made by Kendall Briles. I don't think Mississippi State has hired Kendall Briles or anything like that, but I do believe, as we stand right now, I'm over 50% that Kendall Briles can be Mississippi State's next offensive coordinator. And beyond that, I just don't have the confidence of some people 100% or anything like that. But I do feel like it's moved in a good direction for Mississippi State, having him become the next OC. And we'll obviously be monitoring this. We're constantly on the phone with people. My phone's been blowing up. We're attacking this every way that we possibly can. We're talking to everybody that we can. So we will keep you guys updated on that. All right, moving on to some other things that have happened for Mississippi State in the last few days. I reported on Monday night after the ball game. Reported this a couple of weeks ago, but I got official confirmation. Brad Peterson is your new associate AD for football administration or something like that, whatever the official title is. He's basically a chief of staff for Mississippi State. He's taking basically what Dave Emmerich did at Mississippi State, and then Brittany Thackeray and Matty Dudek were doing as well. He's going to be taking over in that position. So what does that mean for Mississippi State? I think it means a lot of good things for the Bulldogs moving forward within the state of Mississippi, whether it be, the relationships that Mississippi State has with the high school coaches here and even players here in the state, and also the organization skills and just, Brad Peterson knows what it takes to run a program. This is a high-level program. It's not a high school football program, but he knows kind of what it takes. He was around the operations for Mississippi State for several years too, with 3 different head coaches. So I think it's a great hire. It was one of the first hires that Zach Arnett made behind the scenes. Another one of the first hires that he made behind the scenes was Chad Bumpus. He's bringing Chad Bumpus back to Mississippi State to be the Bulldogs' new wide receivers coach. Chad comes to Mississippi State after 2 seasons as the wide receiver coach at Utah. Of course, the Utes were back-to-back Pac-12 champions, back-to-back trips to the Rose Bowl. He was doing some really good things there. They were not very excited about losing him. This is huge. This is a huge hire in so many ways, and it's one of those hires that Zach Arnett made, without consulting an offensive coordinator right away. It was one of those that he felt like he needed to make. Chad was in line to be an assistant at Mississippi State last year. Mississippi State offered the running backs position to him, and he wasn't interested in that. But this is a great opportunity for everybody. Chad is thrilled to be back in Mississippi. This has been something that he's been wanting for quite some time, since he was, and he even mentioned it in the release that Mississippi State put out. This is why he got into the business. He wanted to do something special at Mississippi State, loves Mississippi State. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a better fit for Mississippi State out there right now as an assistant coach than Chad Bumpus. So I think it's a great hire. I think it's going to immediately give you a huge boost inside the state of Mississippi, and not just for wide receivers, for players all around the state, or all around any position, all around the field. And I think that he's going to be a great wide receivers coach as well. So this was a really important hire for Zach Arnett to make. The first hire that was officially confirmed by Mississippi State on Wednesday was the new defensive coordinator. Matt Brock, no surprise, he's your new defensive coordinator. He was calling plays in the ReliaQuest Bowl, so that was not anything that was surprising to any of us, especially if you were over there on 247 on the board. We all believed that this was a formality, and I thought he did a great job in that bowl game. The defense didn't look like they missed a step, actually looked stronger than ever out there. with what they were able to do against Illinois. This is well deserved for Matt Brock, a long time coming. He's really worked his way up over the last few years, started at Texas Tech as a linebackers coach and a special teams coach, went to Washington State with Mike Leach, came with Mike Leach to Starkville. Of course, last year was switched over from special teams and I think inside linebackers to coaching linebackers exclusively. And I mean, what you've seen from the linebackers, they've been one of Mississippi State's best position groups on offense or defense since he's been here. Jet Johnson, Nate Watson, Tyrus Wheat, those guys have been good. Errol Thompson when they first got here in 2020. So these guys have really improved. Thought got better every single year. They've obviously been the heartbeat of the defense, really from a leadership standpoint. I thought that was the best group on Monday in the bowl game as well. Jet Johnson was really good. Of course, Jet and Nate Watson, they lead the SEC in tackles. So whatever Matt Brock is doing with his position group is working. And then he's calling plays in the ReliaQuest Bowl, and it looks like he's ready for this challenge. So and one of Mississippi State's best recruiters too. So I think it was important to make sure they locked him down, keep him within the staff. And I didn't think there was any chance he was going to go anywhere anyway, but it was important for Mississippi State to make sure they kept him. And I think they're not going to be able to miss a beat there on defense with him as the DC. Now, some other things that Mississippi State has to do. Offensive coordinator, obviously, at the forefront. It looks like both receivers coaches are gone. We know that for a fact. Drew Hollingshead announced on Tuesday that he was leaving. Steve Spurrier Jr. is expected to follow suit. Now we're waiting and watching running backs coach Jason Washington, offensive line coach Mason Miller on the offensive side of the ball. It was reported, I think, on Monday that Jason Washington was not going to be retained. I've been told that that is not correct. I think that he is going to have an opportunity to interview for the spot at running back or for another position. I'm not sure exactly, but I don't think anything has been decided with him. I think that Mississippi State would like to keep Mason Miller at offensive line. He's been one of the most valuable assistants they've had since he's been here. So you're waiting on the offensive coordinator, and I think shortly after that, we'll know about the running backs coach and the offensive line coach. And then, of course, you're probably going to have a tight ends coach. I expect the coordinator might be the quarterbacks coach. So you're looking at the tight ends coach as well. On the defensive side of the ball, you're going to have a new defensive line coach. I do not expect Jeffrey Phelps to return. Linebackers are going to remain Matt Brock's, I imagine. The safety spot, I expect Tony Hughes to stay on staff. I would be kind of surprised at this point if he did not. I think he's going to stick around. And then Darcel McBath, have not heard anything other than he's expected to return. So defensive line is basically what they're focused on now on the defensive side of the ball. David Turner has come up as a name of interest. He is a guy that, of course, has tremendous ties to Mississippi State. He was here on 2 different stints with Dan Mullen and has been a part of some of the best defensive linemen that Mississippi State has had in the last 10 years, 10 to 12 years. He coached Fletcher Cox. He coached Josh Boyd. He coached Pernell McPhee, recruited Jeffrey Simmons, coached Chris Jones. So he was a very important part of Mississippi State building a defensive line each and every year that can compete against any offensive line. And now you're seeing those guys in the league. I mean, one of the few guys that I think he wasn't a part of his career was Montez Sweat. I don't think he might have recruited him some in high school, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Don't think he recruited him at Mississippi State when he was coming out of JUCO, but was a huge part of Mississippi State building these monster defensive lines over the years. And that would be obviously, I think, a big get for Mississippi State if they're able to get David Turner. Was not retained at Georgia Tech. So he is wide open right now. So from what Paul Jones reported earlier today, he has been contacted by a couple of people at Mississippi State, and we'll see where that goes. So That's kind of what's going on in the coaching situation for Mississippi State right now. Um, I'm just scrolling, making sure nothing happens. I mean, who knows what's happened? Every hour is a new situation for Mississippi State. Since the Egg Bowl, it's just been something else after another. You have the Egg Bowl; it's just highs and lows constantly for Mississippi State. Egg Bowl win, then you have a lot of players announcing they're returning. Some players announcing they're leaving. You had the drama between Dylan Johnson and Mike Leach, and then the tragic situation with Mike Leach, where he passed away. You're building a signing class, trying to keep everything together. Zach Arnett gets announced. You have the bowl game. Mississippi State wins the bowl game shortly after. You got all this stuff coming out. So it's just highs and lows constantly. And there's some lows too. Mississippi State has the last 2 days lost 2 of its scholarship quarterbacks. Braden Locke decided he was going to enter the transfer portal on Tuesday. Sawyer Robertson announced he was going to enter on Wednesday. I don't know what that means for Mississippi State. I don't know if they know something about the offensive coordinator. I don't know if they're just looking for an opportunity and don't think they're going to win the job over Will Rogers. It's just it's up in the air right now. And we know that Mississippi State is now going to have to go get a transfer quarterback just for the depth. You can't go into the spring and into the summer with 2 scholarship quarterbacks. That's just not going to work. And you got a true freshman as the only guy left. So State is going to have to get a scholarship guy. And the problem with that is you got to convince that person that they need to come in here without knowing that they're going to be a starter, and they're competing against a 3-year starter, a guy that is the favorite to land the job again next year, Will Rogers. So it's going to be difficult, but getting an offensive coordinator is the first thing that Mississippi State has to do. And then from there, you can start to reach out to guys and see who you can get on board. So it is wild right now in Mississippi State sports. All right, so let's get to some conversation in here in the chat. Again, if you guys have something to say, don't mind it, just throw it in there. As long as it's not something stupid. And by something stupid, I mean just like acting stupid, saying things you're not supposed to say on here. So, redacted triple X. Ooh, are you a real person? How are we going to deal with the loss of these quarterbacks? Well, that's the thing now. You got to get a transfer guy. I think it needs to be a guy that's got a couple of years left, because then you're right back to square one next year. Which, I mean, I think this is kind of what a lot of people are dealing with. It's very difficult to keep these quarterbacks stacked like this in this day and age in college football. You're just not going to be able to have what you used to have, where you got a guy that waits his turn for 3 years. You know, Mike Leach had this at Texas Tech a lot. You know, this guy waits his turn for 3 years. He's ready for his opportunity. He comes in. The next guy waited his turn for 3 years. He comes in. You're just not going to have that anymore. I'm a little surprised that Braden Locke transferred so soon. I thought that he was making some headway from what I was hearing in practices and things. But Sawyer Robertson, not much of a surprise. He didn't make a huge jump while he was here. And I know it's still kind of early in his career, but Braden Locke had really made up some ground on him. I was just surprised about Braden Locke. But State's got to go out there, get a transfer, and you're just going to have to constantly be doing this for the most part in college football. I think they might have held on to those 2 guys a little bit longer if they would have had Mike Leach, just because I think both of those guys had a fascination with Leach. They wanted to play for him. So I think that probably sped up the process of them transferring. But this is just the world that everybody's dealing with at this point. If you look at just about everywhere across college football, this is the deal. So you just got to stay on it. I mean, you got to make sure that you're in a good position each and every year. You might change out quarterbacks every year, but you got to be able to constantly be changing with the game. And right now the game is sitting on the transfer portal, and quarterbacks especially are just transferring left and right. So it's really going to be interesting to see what State's able to do there. Oh, all right. Let's see. I've talked about some of this stuff, so I will Scroll through. Is Kendall Briles out since it was not announced today? No. Time frame doesn't have anything to do with it right now. It's just I feel like they're waiting on everything to transpire. Sultan of SWAT, is there truth to the package deal of Jefferson and Sanders coming to Briles? No, I don't think so. I haven't heard anything of substance from that. I think that was really kind of wishful thinking. It'd be great if you could get Kata Jefferson. That solves some of your issues. Although I think Will Rogers might not be on board with that, but I don't see it happen. I think he's happy at Arkansas. I think he wants to finish out there. And Rocket Sanders, I don't think that's a possibility either. But you never know. Matthew, what's your record for most live attendees? This is easily it. I think I got up to around 100 one time, but this is you guys are just eating everything up. Even on our message board is nuts right now. I can't even keep up with it. Oh, Tommy Fowler, do you think we're all in yet, or is there room to negotiate? I don't really know what the figures are, to be honest with you. I was just told that Mississippi State is going to offer him a lot of money to coach. But he's making good money at Arkansas too. And like I said, if they're willing to pay him, I think that's not going to be an issue for them. They got the money. Izzy, any chance Briles would be nicer to you than Zach? 100%. The thing about Zach is, I feel like the press conference, like he feels like, I don't know if he feels threatened or like if he's on edge or whatever. Like when the cameras turn off and the mics turn off, we have good conversations. I've talked to him about his chickens that he has at his house. He offered to give me some of the eggs because they're overflowing with eggs right now. Yesterday or a couple days ago, he was talking about what he was going to drink after the game when he got home. I mean, he's not as gruff when the cameras are turned off. So maybe it's just an act. I don't know. I'm kind of scared to ask. I'm scared to ask anything to him at this point. King Smith, if we have an offense that will score 25 plus per game, we'll win 10 at minimum next year. Might need more than that, but yeah, I mean, if the offense is solid, they're going to have a good shot. Just because the defense, I think, is going to be really good. There's a few things they got to get on defense in the transfer portal, but I think the defense is going to be really good. Clash on, if Briles does come, do you think it will be the end of Will's time in Starkville? No, I don't. I think Will's going to stay at Mississippi State unless something changes drastically. Izzy says, shout out to Chad's mom. That's right. I'm really excited about Chad Bumpus coming back to Mississippi State. I think he is really, really excited as well. Oh, what do we have? Who are we targeting in the portal? It's kind of too soon. I think a lot of guys are waiting to see what happens with the coaching staff. That's why I think this is going to transpire relatively quick. I think State's trying to get this done with someone really soon because they're trying to bring in some guys too this weekend. Clash on. I bet Dylan Johnson will regret leaving even if he starts at Washington. Maybe. I don't know. It does kind of stink at this point. I mean, it looks like you're changing offenses. You're going to probably adapt a little more to run the football. I think he would fit a lot better in what's coming up next. But he was looking for a new start. Alligator Dog Briles needs some criticism this year for Arkansas. I mean, it's hard to criticize it. Their offense was still better than Mississippi State's and was more exciting. They had their star quarterback banged up for most of the year. Wasn't really the same. I mean, I'll take what they did on offense this year over Mississippi State all day, and what they've done under Kendall Briles the last 3 years over Mississippi State. Their offense is significantly more explosive. It adapts to the personnel a little more. Briles is a really good play caller. I think he's really good also about scheming things up to hide some of their weaknesses and expose their strengths. So I feel like he's one of the best young play callers in the country, and that's why this hire is so important. If you're able to get a guy like that, I think that it's going to be huge for Zach Arnett. And if he's only here for a year or so, that's fine. But next year, you got a guy that's one of the best play callers and schemers right now in the country. I mean, they still had a top 5 to 7 offense probably in the SEC, even with their quarterback out for a few games. And KJ was not really the same all year. He was banged up a good bit. I thought Briles did fine. I thought what they did against State was really good. I thought they played really well in that game. Clash on safety could be a bit thin. They got some guys. That you need some players to step up that haven't really proven it yet. Isaac Smith has got to step up and come in. I think he's got a chance to compete for starting job or for playing time right away. Probably going to move maybe Marcus Banks to safety. He needs to step up as well. But a lot of experience is gone. Colin Duncan, Jackie Matthews, Jalen Green, those are big losses. State's got to have some guys step in. But it looks like they're going to have bodies. They just have to have players that really take their game to the next level. Is Dylan Johnson back in Starkville or still in the portal? Dylan is at Washington. He just committed to Washington on Tuesday. David, yeah, I know Montez was a Michigan State transfer. I was talking about, and he didn't transfer from Michigan State. He transferred to Colin. But I was talking about in high school when he was in Georgia and Stevenson. I couldn't remember if Mississippi State recruited Montez, maybe sparingly. But when he left Michigan State, he went to Colin, and that's when he really kind of blew up. Who's going to be the AD? No clue. We're still waiting on that too. That's another thing, and we got that waiting in the wings as well. And I really feel like they need to get that done. There's some things that Mississippi State has to sew up. They got to get somebody in charge, and so that needs to happen pretty soon. I think it will have relatively soon. Jesse, what about Xavier Thomas? Is he coming back? Yes, we expect him to come back. We're just waiting on him to announce that. So we'll see what happens with that. Hunter, I'm tired of that joke. It's dumb. Let's move on. Brian, what do you think Kendall Briles would do with a pass first built roster? Well, I mean, I think he's going to work around whatever his personnel is. I think, Will Rogers is definitely a pass first quarterback. He's not a guy that's going to run the read option. He's going to work around Will's strengths. And I think they're going to make things easier on Will too if they do that. I don't know what the offense looks like next year if it is Kendall Briles. I don't know what it looks like with anybody. But I think that if Will Rogers is your quarterback, you're going to have a coach probably that's going to find ways to bring out the strengths in Will Rogers and not force something like Joe Moorhead did at Mississippi State. I think you're going to find that they're going to try to figure out ways to scheme things up the best way that they can. And there's other players. The players out there are versatile enough. It's not like they got guys that are, wing T or triple option guys that are coming out there having to run the spread. I think they have running backs that can run a traditional spread offense or, something like that. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. I think they'll be able to maneuver some guys around and get the best out of them. That's what I think is going to happen. Matt Caldwell just saw that Ty Keys is in the portal. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with him. It didn't really work out at Southern Miss. Really good player. Hope he has a good career somewhere. Watson Boyd, are there any high school recruits Bumpus will be able to sway our way on a short notice? Probably not. I think State's probably done with high school guys this class. They'll probably be focusing on the 2024 class at this point. You're looking now at transfer portal guys trying to fill the last few slots of your offense there because they don't have a ton of scholarships to give. Mississippi State is pretty full at this point. So they're probably just going to find some guys to fill some spots there out of the transfer portal. Jesse Brewer, Ty Simpson may be a possibility. Doesn't look like he will be the quarterback at Bama next year. I'd take him. Really good player. Kyle, could you see Major Applewhite being a guy that they go if Briles says no? I don't know. I haven't heard his name really. So I don't know. I would guess not, but who knows? He could be a guy that pops up. Sultan of SWAT, do you have any leads besides Xavion on transfer guys potentially coming back? No, I mean, that's the only one. The only other guys that I think Mississippi State would bring back if they wanted to come back is the quarterbacks. And they'll have their opportunity when the new coordinator comes in to sell those guys. If it is Briles, I think Braden Locke is a guy that fits this offense that he runs well. I think he would have a good selling point, but maybe he just wants to transfer anyway. I don't know. But it would just be the quarterbacks and Xavion right now, I think. Any other offensive coordinator names? Not a ton right now. I mean, it's all the focus is really right now on Kendall Briles, and then we'll come back and assess what's next if they don't get him. There were a few guys thrown around early, but right now it's all in on Kendall Briles from what I know. Matt, is Phelps leaving on his own accord or is it mutual parting? I think Mississippi State's moving on, and he was a Leach guy. A lot of the Leach guys are moving on, but I mean some of them it looks like they're going to stay, but we'll see how that goes. Some of these same questions. Peyton, we're just talking. I'll figure out the camera and everything at some point. I do not care about the presentation of this right now. We're just talking about Mississippi State sports. People get so upset about like presentation stuff. Just listen. Let's move on. A lot of questions about KJ. Guys, he is not in the portal. John, what does Chad Bumpus bring in recruiting? Well, he's a Mississippi guy first and foremost. He's a guy that you have to, if you're a good recruiter, you have to eat up recruiting. You have to be someone that loves to do it. You got to spend a lot of time doing it. You got to build the relationships, and he's one of those guys that does it. He builds those relationships with players and loves the state of Mississippi, has a lot of connections here. I think that inside the state, especially, he's going to be able to make a lot of headway. He did that a little bit at Utah, too. He had a couple of guys from Mississippi up there and recruited some guys hard that he had a shot with that ended up staying closer to home. I think that you're going to see him emerge as one of State's best recruiters pretty quickly. Just a young, infectious personality, go-getter, a guy that's got a lot of electricity around him. I mean, he's one of those that just kind of lights up a room when he comes in. So those are the kind of guys you need in recruiting. You need those guys that can build those relationships and people can really get behind. Adam, my confidence level on Briles is cautious but optimistic. I just don't have enough information to really go all in on it, but I feel like Mississippi State has done a good job with him, and we'll see what happens. I would put it over 50% at this point, but it's still, a work in progress. Is Price the next DJ? Simeon Price, a little different running style, but if you can get him in there side by side with Woody Marks and you not miss much of a beat, I think that's going to be huge for Mississippi State. I was really impressed with him on Monday. I thought he was good regardless this year, but Monday it seemed like he really moved forward as a player. And he was getting healthy this year. He was just getting back in the groove and all that. But I think that game was a real springboard for him and Justin Robinson. Those guys can have huge seasons next year, and I think they showed what they can do in that game. Price is the next Antonio Gibson. Oh, I'd take it. Jackson, Sam Pittman, $5 million, Zach Arnett, $3 million, give us much more wiggle room for assistance. Yeah, State's got plenty of money to spend, but Arkansas's got some money to spend too. I mean, I really feel like if they want to make it a money thing, that they're going to win that battle. I don't know if Mississippi State can beat them on that front, but I think there's a lot more that goes into it too than just the money. I mean, I think at a certain point, you're rich. I mean, as a coordinator, if you're making over $2 million, you got the money. It's just, how much do I have control over the offense, things like that. And like I said, the Arkansas people tell me that he has plenty of control in the offense, and that's kind of disputes what is being reported out there and talked about. But, if there's any kind of leeway there, Mississippi State can give him full control, then I think that matters to a lot of guys. That mattered to Zach Arnett. That was a big reason why he didn't leave Mississippi State. He had the opportunity to run the defense exactly how he wanted to run it, and Mike Leach never meddled in it. And so that matters. You had a coach in Sam Pittman. I don't know anything about what's going on there, but I do know that Sam Pittman has been involved in offense for a long time. He was offensive line coach at Georgia. He spent a lot of time on offense. He's probably going to give his input on the offensive side of the ball and what he wants to see. He probably wants to see a lot more of controlling the line of scrimmage, running the football. He's an offensive line guy. He's run the football everywhere he's been. So I'm sure that has come up. I'm sure they've had conversations about that. If that's the case, and Briles wants to throw the football a little bit more, and Mississippi State's saying, hey, we'll give you the chance to do whatever you want to, that might matter. I don't know 100% certainty. Like I said, there's been so many different things said today by people that I've talked to. It's hard to really separate the truth from, what's not really the truth. So I don't know what to think about any of that stuff. But all I know is if that is the case, if he doesn't have full autonomy, then Mississippi State has an upper hand there that they could get past the money thing, which I do think Mississippi State's willing to pay him well. What do we have? Just some of the same stuff. Who's going to be wide receiver one beside Justin Robinson? Tula Griffin, probably. Need to get Catalan out of the portal to help safeties. He's a good player. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. I don't know if I think that's scaring some people right now. But, yeah, I mean, he's solid. If he's healthy, that's a really good player for you in the back end. Eric Gilbert's still in the portal. Would love to see him at State. He's good. Hasn't really done anything. It's kind of strange. Izzy, odds the new offensive coordinator will be on campus recruiting this weekend. I think those are high. I think Mississippi State has a hire in the next few days. I think it's close. Whether it's Briles or not, I think State will move quickly on this. Do we have the wide receivers on the roster to work for Briles? Yeah, they have enough guys. They're probably going to want to get another guy or two, but they have guys that can play this in that offense for sure. And I don't know if he's going to use as many wide receivers as Mike Leach did. So I think the options are there for Mississippi State to do some things there at wide receiver. He might want another dynamic guy or two. I don't know, but you got Tula Griffin, you got Rufus Harvey had a huge season. I think he can easily play. Justin Robinson stepped up, so they got plenty of options there. That's one good thing about the air raid is Mississippi State stacked wide receivers, and not just bodies. I mean, they have some talented players. They got enough receivers out there, and they got some good running backs too. So the skill positions, I'm not worried about. I'm wondering about quarterback, what's going to happen there, especially if there's an injury or something like that. And then tight end, if Mississippi State wants to use a tight end, what do you do there? You don't have any tight ends on the roster, but offensive line's good. I think even the guys that they recruited, they could run a more physical front if they want to. And that's not to say State wasn't physical up front, but they had the wider splits. These offensive linemen are built to run some of those read option or more physical front offenses. I think that this offensive line can transition well to that. It's really just a question on like whoever comes in, what are they going to do at quarterback? Is Will Rogers going to be the guy there? I think he's capable of being the guy there. What are they going to do if they need a tight end? That's the things to watch. Camp, a coach's name I haven't heard is Eric Mealy. Any news on him? Yeah, I forgot to mention him. I think that he's going to probably stick around. He had a good year, I thought, as the special teams coordinator. There were some things that people could be upset about, obviously, in the kicking game and punting as well. But for the most part, this is one of the more dynamic special teams Mississippi State's had in a long time. They were really good returning the ball. I thought Tula Griffin and Xavier Thomas were great this year. They had some great games punting the football. Late in the year, they were automatic kicking it. So, I mean, I don't think you could be really upset about what Eric Mealy did this year. I thought they really took a step forward. Jesse, who's going to kick field goals next year? Still up for grabs. You know, they got a freshman coming in, walk on Kyle Ferry, who was really good this year. They just offered a Colorado kicker out of the portal who has some really good numbers. I think that would be a good pickup. Don't know yet what he's going to do. State's trying to get him in on an official visit. He's got 2 years left. That's an option. I feel like it's probably going to be a portal guy next year, so we'll see how that goes. Brian, thanks, Robbie, for talking. Met you a few times through Edda's Finest Ben Wait. Been a treat to have you as a beat writer. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Oh, Ben, I miss Ben. We still talk about Ben. He's been gone for, gosh, probably 5 or 6 years now, and we still talk about him sometimes. He was fun to be around. I loved sitting up in the press box with him during baseball season and just shooting the bull. And he was a fun guy. I hope he's doing well. Day 12, will we go after another running back in the portal? Probably not. I think they're good at running back. We'll see. With Woody Marks coming back, I don't see a huge reason, and we saw Simeon Price was really emergent. I don't see a huge reason to go to the portal. You got good freshman running back coming in, Seth Davis. I don't know how much he plays this year, or next year, but that's a good option. Then you have Jeffrey Pittman from junior college. So you got 4 scholarship guys. You should be good, but that's another thing that they were talking about, discussing when they got an offensive coordinator, possibly bringing in another running back. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but if they want to, there are some options out there. Josh, I find it odd Locke was offered by Arkansas, being Kendall Briles coaches quarterbacks. Yeah, he fits their offense. I think he's a good fit for that offense. So if it is Kendall Briles, then you have an option there. You have the connection to get Braden Locke back on campus. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not. But, yeah, there's a connection there, and he does fit what Kendall Briles wants to do. Michael Black, when do you expect the new AD hire to be announced? I think it'll be relatively soon. I just don't see them dragging it out much further. But it's something that I think they have to get done pretty soon. They have too many things happening right now. I feel like they need to have somebody in place. So I think it'll be pretty soon. Jared Banko has been my leader in the clubhouse for a while. Right now that would be the guy that I would bet on. But it's just been so quiet. This AD search is really quiet, and that's by design with Mark Keenum. He's wanted to keep it quiet to kind of keep the integrity of the guys he's going after and not have all that distraction around their athletic departments. What do we have? What happened to the basketball team from Clash On? Just they're just going through some growing pains. It's a team that's not very good on the offensive side of the ball. It's the same things that we saw early on in the season. It's just you're playing better teams now. You're playing two top 10 teams in a row with Alabama and Tennessee. Mississippi State just saw probably the two best teams that they're going to play this year, and Bama and Tennessee, and that definitely uh, showed in those two ball games. And State, Tennessee shot the ball really well. State didn't play great defense on Tuesday. If State's not playing good defense, then they're going to be in trouble against everybody. This is nothing that's really surprising to me. I think that it's going to take a while. It's going to take Christian's getting some guys in here that are his guys that can run what he wants to run on the offensive side and that can score. State's have had a real problem scoring the basketball. They don't have a lot of guys that can do it. So that's your issue. If you're not able to score the basketball, it's going to be tough to win ball games. State's had the defense in the non-conference schedule to hold teams down where they could get over the hump. But when you're playing good offensive teams like Bama and Tennessee, it's going to be more difficult. You got to have some guys that can score. I think he's got some guys in this class coming in, and you're going to have to hit the portal too and get some guys. But this team is just not built for it. Now you just got to find a way to win 8 games maybe in the conference. Just find those wins somewhere to give yourself a shot to get in the NCAA tournament. I don't think all is lost or anything like that, but State's got to win some games that are winnable. They got to beat Ole Miss. They got to beat South Carolina twice. These teams that they need to beat or they're supposed to beat, they need to win those games because you're going to lose games against Alabama and Arkansas and teams like that, maybe LSU. You got to win against these teams that you're supposed to beat. Bryce Hall, obviously no OC announced yet, but either way, what would be a talking point you think would be used to try and get at least one of those quarterbacks back? If it is Kendall Briles and he's got that relationship with him, I would definitely use that. That would be something that I would use. You could show out in this offense. So I don't know. Maybe Braden Locke wants to leave anyway. I don't know. But that would definitely – Sawyer looks like he's ready to move on, but Braden Locke looks like a guy that could be a possibility to come back if you're able to use that angle. I just don't know yet. Josh Broadway, are we still recruiting the running back from Wake Forest? Have not heard anything lately on that. It was reported, I think, by Paul on the board maybe last week that they were still recruiting him a little bit. So that's still up for grabs. I just don't know what they're going to do at running back. Mason Welch, did you teach Hardy how to hit people with guitars? I did not. He knows very well how to destroy guitars. Does it on stage all the time. He did it on Monday Night Raw the other day. I was extremely jealous of that. I've been happy for Hardy since he's gotten big. That's the first time that I was actually jealous. He went on Monday Night Raw and hit someone with a guitar. And his theme song is the theme song for Royal Rumble, so that's exciting. Redacted, what about Coach Leach's son as a GA? Is he staying? I'm not sure. I would like to check on that. I need to check on that and see. That would be really cool. I don't know. Quite honestly, I did not know till recently that he was a GA. I had no clue. And then saw him the other day too on the sidelines. Really cool moment for him to get a chance to be out there and see all the stuff that everybody was doing in honor of his dad. And then, of course, Mississippi State winning the game. That was really cool. Dale Lowry, Wikipedia's updated Briles as OC at State. Well, if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. I use that as a source all the time. So it is that's got to be true. Back, can we get some wrestling chat going on? I don't think that's going to work. I think this big number that we have up here, 181 right now, would fly away pretty quickly. We'll stay away from the wrestling as much as we can. Would the OC hire impact Parson? I don't think so because he's a versatile guy. I mean, I was kind of surprised he was going to be an air raid guy, but that to me showed that Mike Leach was kind of adapting a little bit and what he did offensively. I think he's a guy that could easily run whatever somebody runs. He's got a good arm, he's got a good pocket presence, and then of course he can run. So I don't think it's going to impact him at all. Alligator, how much can they beef Tulu up without him losing that shiftiness and elusiveness? I don't know. He's a pretty good size right now for his size. I mean, maybe a little more meat on his bones, but I think he's in pretty good shape. Scott Brown, do we have an H-back tight end to run Briles' offense? I think one of the guys that I would say would be probably the biggest candidate there would be Antonio Harmon. That's a player that I thought was going to end up at tight end anyway when he was in high school. Mississippi State's kept him a wide receiver. That would be a guy that could be an option. And he would probably be the main option right now. I don't know a whole lot of guys on this offense that are tight ends or that have the possibility to be a tight end. But you do have the portal too. There's, we haven't talked about tight ends because Mississippi State doesn't recruit them. So we just kind of overlook it. There are guys out there that you can go get pretty quickly. So if they really need a tight end in this offense, I think that's what you're going to see. And you guys are mentioning the same thing, Harmon. Yeah. Who's going to be the punt returner? Xavion Thomas. What are the odds that Jeffrey Pittman becomes running back one sooner than later? I don't think that's going to be the case this year, but that's a guy we're not talking about a lot. I would really liked him in high school. He's done a good job too in JUCO, really progressing. I think he's going to come in and be a player that's going to run really hard. He'll remind you a lot of Dylan Johnson, I think, in some ways. So I think that's a player that you can get excited about. A guy, again, we're just not talking about enough. Jason Hanna, Isaac Smith showed well in the All-Star game. Yeah, had an interception. I think he had a good week down there at practices. Hopefully we're going to get him a bump on 247. That's what we're trying to do. It's been in the plans to get him a bump, and we'll see where he ends up. But to me, he's definitely a top 3 player in the state. I think the 3 guys that went to the All-American game, Aiden Williams, Suntarine Perkins, and Isaac Smith, I think all 3 of those guys are your top 3 in the state. And they're all playing in the state of Mississippi too. David Vincent says Locke knew he wasn't going to get a chance. Robertson didn't show much. Non-mobile quarterback isn't going to get it done. Possibly so. I don't know. I thought it was a little premature for Locke, but I'm not in his head. I don't know why he decided to leave. Robertson probably was not going to be the guy. And if he was, it was going to be at the earliest probably in 2 years. And you're talking about a player that has been here now for 2 years, and there's going to be another year next year, 3 years sitting on the bench. I mean, guys just don't do that anymore. Guys don't want to do that. They want to play. And I can't really blame them. Cooper, Jay Hobson for linebacker coach? No. Matt Brock is probably going to run the linebackers. RP McPherson confirms Avion's coming back. Answer that above, but yes, it looks like he's going to return. Clash On says there's only a month away from baseball. Yeah, almost baseball season. Blake, you think we bring in Jamar Chaney? There's going to have to be some movement on the defensive staff for that to happen. I know that Jamar badly wants to return, just like Chad Bumpus did. Would be a Chad Bumpus-like hire, in my opinion. I think he would do really well. Hasn't been a linebackers coach yet, but well respected on the staffs that he's been on at Florida and Mississippi State. I think eventually he ends up in Starkville, but right now I don't know how the numbers work. You're going to have somebody leave, and Arnett would have to be the safeties coach or something probably. I mean, you're working with the 10-man limit right now on assistant coaches, and that's kind of the issue right now. And Jamar is a linebackers guy, and it looks like Matt Brock is going to be a linebackers guy. David, glad to see the pure air raid gone. And I love Leach, but that offense was horrible. Yeah, no disrespect to Mike Leach at all, but it for Mississippi State, the last 3 years, it was not an exciting offense to follow. It was not a dynamic offense by any means. I mean, State struggled at times with some inconsistencies. And maybe that's a lot on execution, but I think a lot of that too is, Mississippi State just was not committed to uh, consistently speeding it up, using, I thought when they used more tempo that they were a much better offense. I thought when they used running the football a little more, they're a much better offense. That last possession the other day in the bowl game was effective because Mississippi State was running the football and moving a little quicker at times. They ran some clock late, but I thought that possession was great, and we saw that a lot this year, but just not enough consistently. So I always said, there was a reason that everybody was changing that offense after running it. There was definitely some tweaks that need to be made, but one thing is for sure, Mississippi State will have a different looking offense next year in some form or fashion because no one ran it quite like Mike Leach. None of your business. My worry is these players haven't had to memorize a big playbook. They're going to have time. You're going to have a coordinator in here for spring, and they're going to have meetings and all that. I mean, they'll be able to handle it. Players these days can handle that kind of stuff. I think it'll be fine. Do you think Will would do well with more than 5 plays? Yeah, I mean he's run an offense for many years. That's a guy that is a film junkie. He's not going to be overwhelmed, I don't think, with a playbook. That's a coach's son that his dad lives and breathes coaching offense, so he'll be fine. Some of these other questions have already been asked, guys. If you ask a question I didn't answer it, there's a good chance I already answered it. And when I get done, this thing will be uploaded. You should be able to go back and watch if you want to. Clash on, how do you think Arnett is at player relations? Well, so far, I mean, they're keeping all these guys on the defensive side of the ball. I tend to really like him. That you don't see a ton of transfers on that side. It looks like he's done a good job. That remains to be seen with him as a head coach, but players seem to love to play for him. That's been something that's been really apparent in the first 3 years. Adam, how do you think Will would do with an OC that wants him to run more? Not just option, but just taking what you can get when nobody's open. I think if they push the envelope, he'd be willing to do it. I don't think there's going to be a ton of design runs for Will Rogers. That's just not his game. But if they ask him, if you see 15 yards of grass in front of you and nobody's open, take off and run. I think he'd be willing to do it. That's just not what the air raid, really asked him to do. He was looking for guys in space, and if a coach really wants him to, and the offense calls for him to get out and run a little bit more, I think he'd be willing to do it. It's just going to be fascinating to see what happens. We don't have any answers right now on who the guy's going to be, so we just don't know what any of that's going to look like. Everything's just we're all in the dark right now with Mississippi State offense moving forward, and that's a big part of things. State's got to have a really good offensive coordinator, and Zach Arnett's got to nail this hire, and we'll see where they go from there. If he gets a really good offensive hire, then it's game on for Mississippi State. Because I think Zach and that defense, Matt Brock's defense, and the guys they have over there, I don't think they're going to have any issues on that side of the ball. I think that side of the ball is going to be good for a long time. But the offense is a big question mark, and Zach Arnett's not an offensive guy, so he's got to have a guy that runs that thing himself. Richard, will a new offensive coordinator limit Will's freedom to audible? I don't know. It just depends on who it is. That's a big question. Mike Leach gave freedom to his quarterbacks more than just about anybody. So it's going to be hard to find somebody that gave that much freedom to quarterbacks. So that remains to be seen. Chance, how many wins do you think we get next year under Arnett? It really depends on that hire on the offense. The ceiling is high for that team. I think 9 wins. 9 wins is kind of where I'm sitting right now in the regular season. I would sign up for that today. 9 wins, the potential to get 10 in the bowl game. That's a possibility. 9 to 10 wins is where I would put Mississippi State. If they make a good offensive coordinator hire, that's where I would have them, 9 to 10 wins. I think the schedule is solid. They get a lot of games at home. Non-conference schedule looks to be good. You got a tough ball game. It's starting to creep up now. South Carolina's a really tough game that you got to go on the road. That's a team that's not going to be easy to defeat. So, a lot of questions there on what Mississippi State can do with that schedule. I think 9 or 10 wins would be outstanding. Day 12, who's the next quarterback prospect? And we'll bump this up with Stonka and the kid from Choctaw County. Trey Petty seems to be right now the lead guy. That can change with whoever the coordinator is. Just, again, a lot of stuff that is just unknown right now because of the fact they don't have a coordinator. We don't know what's going to happen there. As far as bump this was Stonka, yeah, I think he definitely is going to help with Stonka. And Caleb Cunningham as well. He's going to be probably the primary recruiter for both of those guys. I think he definitely helps you. Cal, A&M hired Bobby, and Auburn hired Freeze. So if Kendall turns us down, just hire Art. Probably not. Probably not going to happen there. Adam, what's your grade on Sam Purcell so far? With the team right now, currently, I would give him a B minus. The loss to Ole Miss was a bad one. I don't want to take anything away from Ole Miss. That's a good team. That was going to be a tough game regardless. But just the way that the team played down the stretch, I didn't think that was a good sign. But also, I'm not going to judge Purcell 100% on this season, because I think that the roster can actually improve moving forward. And that's tough to say when you added all these pieces from Power 5 teams and things like that. But a lot of these pieces also were role players at their other school. They didn't have to take over ball games, things like that. So these players are not, proven. A lot of these players are not proven star players. So you're kind of looking for an identity. They still haven't really gotten it on offense. They got to get better on the offensive side of the ball. I think they're great on the defensive side. That has given me no concerns, but it's a team that's got to get better. Blake D's, who's another option besides Briles? Kitley? I don't think Kitley's going to leave. I think he's probably going to stay at Texas Tech. And his next move is probably going to be as head coach, but he seems to be happy at Texas Tech. That is his alma mater. He's got a lot of ties there at Texas Tech, so I don't think he's going anywhere. Izzy asked, do you think you're better than me? I would never think that, Izzy, but I appreciate you dropping that in the comments. This would not be a chat if Izzy didn't drop in you think you're better than me. All right, any more questions before we get out of here? This has been incredible. You guys have been great. Biggest crew we've ever had in here. And, the numbers are off the charts on everything. And it's not about, us just trying to get clicks or anything like that. I've just been amazed at, how crazy everybody's been over this stuff. It's been pretty funny to watch. But I also love that everybody is, all in right now. Everybody's excited. Everybody's really likes the direction. And that's really cool to see. Everybody was kind of in shambles a little bit over the Mike Leach stuff, and that was a tough time. But it's like Mississippi State's rebuilding at this point, building things back. And I think Zach Arnett is bringing some excitement. He's a guy that is really passionate right now about Mississippi State, about the state of Mississippi. He's making the right hires right now. And it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows for him, especially if he doesn't get Kendall Briles, this place is going to explode. But right now, it just seems like everybody's behind him, and I think he's doing a great job. He's got more to prove, and he's going to be a full-time head coach now moving forward. But so far, the results have been great. Jackson can't wait to watch Dollar General brand Dak Prescott, KJ Jefferson lead us to the playoffs next year. I think he's a little better than that. I think he's solid. I like KJ. I would love to see him in Mississippi State. I don't know if that's going to happen. But I thought State should have taken him in the first place. I thought he should have come to Mississippi State out of high school. I really like him a lot. Adam, Royal Rumble prediction. I haven't decided yet. I'm going to be. I got to get that squared away too. We got to have a Royal Rumble party. Some of my friends. Clash on. If we didn't hire Arnett, do you think that we could have gotten Sonny Dykes from TCU for that extension? I don't know. That's a tough question. TCU has been. I mean, I know that everybody views Mississippi State, or at least in this fan base, probably views Mississippi State ahead of TCU. But that's been a more productive program. They've done bigger things than Mississippi State has over the last probably 10 years or so. They had a great program. They've been to some New Year's Six games. Destroyed Ole Miss a few years ago in a New Year's Six game, and now they're playing for national title. Just unbelievable. It's been really cool to see Sonny Dykes too rise to that level, because that's a Mike Leach guy through and through. I mean, Mike Leach followed Spike Dykes at Texas Tech. He brought Sonny Dykes on his coaching staff, kind of developed him as a coach. So he's one of those guys in the Leach tree, one of the bigger names at this point. He's really worked his way up to the top. But yeah, that was a guy a couple years ago that Mississippi State was actually looking at, and a lot of people kind of scoffed at it. Kyle, if we hire Briles and buying season tickets, and I live in Houston, Texas, that's the spirit. That's what you guys got to do. You got to have that kind of spirit in you. You like NASCAR from Blake? I used to. I haven't watched NASCAR in years. After Dale passed away, I lost my love for it. Dale was my guy. We used to go to Talladega a lot. Me and my dad were big Dale Earnhardt fans. And when he passed away, I drew away from it. But I watched it a couple of weeks ago just randomly. Seems like it's pretty fun. All right, guys. Again, I mean, I've been away from the phone now for about an hour, but I know that we're still working the phone lines. We're still trying to figure out what's going on, and we're staying on top of this stuff. We're not forgetting about you guys. We're going to keep you updated. And if you want to stay updated behind the scenes, not everything's going to be exposed for people out here on YouTube or on social media, but we're reporting a lot of things on our website. And that's why we are this source for Mississippi State sports on 247. So you guys got to come check us out if you don't already. Come check us out today. I'm not sure if we have a deal going on right now or not. I've lost track of all that stuff, but it's worth the price of admission. I promise you. We work really hard over there. Paul, Steve, myself, David Murray, Mike Nemeth. We're a pretty good staff, I think. And so we're working the phone lines. We're trying to find out what's going on. We broke the news on Brad Peterson. We had you pretty much up to date on Chad Bumpus. We didn't release a lot of that just for sensitivity reasons for Chad. But today we had that story out before it was announced. We let you know about Matt Brock. We've let you know about Briles as well. So what I'm saying is you need to be over at 247. So if you aren't, come check us out. And subscribe to this channel as well. Subscribe to Thunder and Lightning. Go check us out on wherever you get podcasts. Follow me on Twitter and all that stuff. So other than that, we'll be back next week possibly, unless there's something else to talk about. I might record a reaction video to something that happens or anything like that. But I appreciate you guys. It's been a record day on this YouTube channel. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. Thank you for your support on here. Thanks for checking this out. And share it, subscribe, like it, whatever. Do whatever you want. but I appreciate the support. All right, guys, have a great rest of the week. We will talk to you down the road.